Let me just ask you first of all about your frustration, I suppose. A second game in just a few weeks, called off for two very different reasons, but something completely out of your control. That must make it even more frustrating.
Yeah, it was a strange one. We didn't find out till 4:40, I think. We got the call from the Premier League. We hadn't heard anything from Watford Football Club about the possible situation. And then it come to light that they'd had COVID cases. So, the game had to be cancelled. But very late notice, that's for sure.
You'll have heard, I'm sure, Thomas Frank's suggestion this morning that all games this weekend should be postponed. Leicester Spurs, just in the last few minutes, has been called off as well. It's seeming increasingly inevitable now that something needs to happen. What do you think should happen?
Well, I don't think it's that relevant what I think should happen. I'm not a scientist.
It's relevant what Premier League managers think, isn't it? You will be consulted.
You can let me finish if you like. I think that Thomas's opinion is valid in some ways, but then does that not occur next week? Then there's a golden rule that if we call this week off, the next week we'll all be clear. So there isn't any golden rule to it. That's one thing I do understand about what's going on. I get the idea of trying to break the pattern of it and maybe, going through your training grounds and re-cleansing everywhere that we've had to do many times. But that really is an ongoing thing. We've certainly tried to get that to be an ongoing thing here throughout the pandemic to try and make sure everywhere's clean and everywhere's washed down and all the usual rules we're trying to affect. But I understand his point, to try and bring a break in it. It's not easy. Health and welfare is above everything. We all know that. Health and well-being. There are some ins and outs, in the middle of it, but we are all waiting, or we're certainly waiting, only in our instance, for the Premier League to report on, why the game was off. So that's all we can do is wait for that report and see what happens from there on in.
And I suppose there's even more uncertainty for away teams. I mean, yourselves, I assume you would travel to Birmingham tomorrow and stay in a hotel tomorrow night?
Yeah, but we'll do all the right things. We'll try and contain our outfit. We'll make sure the staff members who are serving us are tested, checked rather, like we do. We'll do all the protocols that we've been advised to do. But even within that, teams may well be doing everything. We're all aware of the spread of this virus, so I think we're all trying to do what we can do, basically. There's no golden rule that just because you're in football, that means you're not going to be part of what's going on in the world.
And obviously, as you say, you have to just prepare as if the game is going ahead. But are you thinking in the back of your head that this is unlikely, this is going to happen now? And I mean, are you generally a worrier? Are you somebody who looks at the news and thinks this is getting quite serious now?
I only worry about things that are in my domain. I can't decide what's going on in the whole world. So we'll be prepared, ready to play. If something occurs that stops us from doing that, then we'll react accordingly and move forward. What
is the club's policy on vaccination? Have all the players been double jabbed now? Are they all going to get boosters?
You can't have a policy because people's freedom to choose. What we can do is advise. I've had all of them, so I would advise that that's a good decision or a good thing to do. But you can't make people do it, so it's up to them. What I would say is the Premier League might be able to say, well, hang on, if we're calling games off because of non-vaccination, then it's been a long period now for education on vaccination. So even though you can't make players do it, or anyone for that matter, you can strongly advise and explain what's going to happen if you haven't been vaccinated, or what could happen if you haven't been vaccinated, etc., etc. But that's for scientists. That's not for me as a manager. That's for the scientists, for the doctors, to explain to players, as we have done, to re-explain, re-educate, re-explain, re-educate as many times it takes until hopefully the uptake is across the board.
I mean, the worst case scenario, or not the worst case scenario, I suppose, but it would be a big backward step if you were to go behind closed doors for a few weeks, wouldn't it?
Whether it is or isn't, that won't be my decision.
Yeah. And as you said earlier, that if it was to be a 1 week break, it kind of seems that wouldn't really solve the problem. It's still going to be there in a week's time, isn't it?
No, I'm only suggesting that I think it's unlikely that would solve it, because next week there might be another outbreak of cases across football and across the sport, whether it's staff, whether it's players. How do you prevent that? We can't. The players and staff have still got to live their lives. The rules out in the bigger picture of the world or this country are considerably different to the rules in football. So they've still got to go out and live their lives. You can't shut their lives down totally either. They're human beings.
And to confirm, Burnley are largely unaffected at the moment, touch wood?
Yeah, we've had a few cases. We've had our share of cases, but not so far. So far, contained them pretty quickly, got them out of the building quickly. taken away the affected people if needs be, or if there was a concern, and retested until we're happy that they're clear.
Yeah. Fingers crossed it goes ahead for you, Sean. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jamie. James Cooper, PLP.
James Cooper, I ain't seen you in ages, mate. What's
Hello,
happening?
hello. Very well indeed. How are you?
I'm splendid, thank you.
You're all vaccinated by the sounds of it as well.
I am.
Fantastic. I imagine after not having a game, you're chomping at the bit and hoping there will be a game, and so are the players.
Yeah, I mean, we're ready for it, prepared for it. It happens, now and again, whether these circumstances or not. Obviously, we had the snowed off game as well. The players came in today as normal. Obviously, we did a firmer session than we would have done if they'd played a game, but planning on the next one.
I think you're not a panicker. You're not someone who strikes me as being someone who panics. And I was looking at kind of last season. You've actually got one more point on the board than you had this time last year, and you were fine last year in the end. Does it help that you know your territory, if you like, with the greatest respect?
It's not. Well, it probably does help. I think we've got a good experience level. But people throw at me this word about panicking. You have your concerns. You have your element of you that's frustrated and all them things. But panic's a different ball game. Panic has never, in my life, in football, never solved anything. So I just try. Think clearly, look at the stats, look objectively, get other people who are not part of us who I trust in football to watch us and give their opinion, get my staff's opinion, get the players' opinion, and then we work through it and we see where it can take us. So we just try and stick to a process that I believe in. So it's not about but panic's just the wrong word, that's all. Of course you concern yourselves with some of the challenges of what your team are doing and the league table and all them things, but you can only adjust it by clear minds. So I try and just stay clear-minded on what I believe in.
Does it feel like it did last year? Because you got a real good foothold at Christmas last year, didn't you?
Slightly different. I think we're performing better than we were last year. We're not getting as many points, but I think we are performing better generally. I think we're just waiting and working for the productivity in the attacking third to return. I believe it will. And I think that's the added point of how we're going about our business, because generally defensively we've been pretty good. Few mistakes that have cost us, but generally pretty solid. It's how we can affect it in the attacking side of the game.
I think question marks over Dale Stephens with illness and Maxwell as well. Any sort of good news on either of those two?
No, Dale's been down for a bit. He's only just back in training. Maxwell's still touch and go with his thigh anyway, regardless of any other. So we're just hopeful that they settle down sooner rather than later going into the Christmas spell.
And if I could finish off by just asking you your memories of Jimmy Robson. I mean, I met him a few times, an absolute gentleman. And obviously, you throw around, as was always said, legend in terms of football clubs. This is a guy that's got 100 goals for Burnley, that won the league with them, and yet was the most unassuming man that I've ever met from sort of Burnley's heritage. Yeah,
I haven't met him. I've met a lot of the old players and some of the big figureheads, names here. I've invited them down here. Actually, they come down for lunch one day and had a nice chat with them, and a few of the players spoke with them. I think it's important to remember that some of the historic figures of the game, and he's rightly so one of them.